Hey, you're hanging out in the Link Up Lounge. I'm Tiffany Mason.
And I'm Donna Ruppel. Around here, we believe success isn't just about what you know, it's about who you link up with. This is your lounge for turning one link into endless opportunities.
Donna, it blows my mind that the two of us have over 30 years of combined networking experience.
I know. We've built businesses, expanded networks, and created unstoppable momentum, all through the power of strategic connections.
AKA networking. And now we're here to guide you to do the same, starting today.
So let's dive in, connect, and start making moves you didn't even know were possible. Welcome back to the Link Up Lounge. I'm Donna Ruppel, your Nocatee real estate expert, here with my co-host, Tiffany Mason of Virtually You, the boutique podcast management agency.
This is your lounge for turning one link into endless opportunities. And today we're talking about something that honestly doesn't get discussed enough in networking conversations, the hidden return on investment of networking. Because most people hear ROI and they're thinking like, oh yeah, did I get a client from that? Did I get a sale from that? Did I get a referral? What was the monetary value? And especially, I know with podcasts, people feel that way. Like, what is my ROI? But really, it's a pretty indirect ROI when it comes to podcasting. Like, you have to think how much traffic was led to your business. How many clients did you get that were warm leads and you didn't have to talk ad nauseum about your business before they wanted to sign a contract or start services or whatever you offer. So yeah, networking can absolutely create those things, but some of the most valuable returns from networking are actually things you never expected walking into the room. Sometimes networking gives you just some confidence, like you have a couple conversations and realize, wait a minute, I do kind of know what I'm talking about. Or sometimes it gives you clarity. You make a couple of connections and you're like, yeah, actually, that is the next direction that I want to go in. And sometimes it introduces you to someone who changes your perspective completely. I mean, how many times have you been talking to somebody and they throw a one-liner your way and you're like, huh, that's actually really true, you know? So it's not always these concrete things that we can see. Sometimes it's just a valuable connection that leads to another connection, because I'm a firm believer it's not who you know, it's who knows who.
Right.
And honestly, some of the best networking outcomes happen months or even years after the original conversation.
So often when you trace something back in your business, especially in mine, in real estate, when I trace it back, it's something or someone I met years ago, and 99% of the time it was somebody I met through networking years ago. And they finally had the opportunity to send me a referral. And so it's so exciting, right? I think this is really where a lot of people get discouraged with networking. They attend one event and they're like, well, I didn't get a client. So that was stupid. That was a waste of my time. I don't like networking, but
I find that so frustrating.
Right?
Wrong perspective.
Right? Networking rarely works in a straight line like that. The ROI is always delayed. I mean, I would say often, but I'm going to say always. It should be delayed because networking is, about building relationships. And so it shouldn't be transactional the first time you meet somebody. The ROI is often delayed, or it's something that you don't really fully understand until later, when the pieces fall into place. And then you're like, oh my gosh, that came from that networking event. So it's definitely something that isn't as simple and transactional as people want it to be. Show up to an event, make a sale. That's not how networking really works.
Well, you speaking of being a realtor or knowing that you're a realtor, I don't know if you were speaking of it, but knowing that you're a realtor, I mean, you guys send out, well, I shouldn't say you guys, you, Donna Ruppel, sends out the giveaways or whatever, like a $5 gift card to this or a free dessert or a free coffee. I mean, y'all are doing that for months on end. And then you're right. Finally, an opportunity opens up where I can refer business to you, or I can say something to my friend who's selling her house and be thankful that she doesn't know 5 other realtors. Like, whenever anybody posts on Facebook, does anybody know a good realtor? I'm like, A, how do you not know a realtor? And B, why did you just open up a can of worms for yourself?
I know. I'm always like, oh my gosh, you're going to get like 192 comments.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, and then I also think you saying that it's not transactional, right? I have never walked into a networking event and been like, oh, let me just drop a client contract for you quick and left saying, okay, we'll launch your podcast, in a month. Like that's
Right?
never happened to me. Have you ever sold a house at your first networking event, Donna?
Right? Wouldn't that be awesome? I'd go to networking events every day. I'd be like doing nothing but networking events if it worked like that. I know, but when I was in direct sales decades ago, they talked a little bit about networking. A lot of it was, go to the mall and meet 10 people and pass out your business card. Some of it was networking, but it was always a focus on transaction, like get a sale, get a client, get a customer. I always was like, I don't feel comfortable with that. I like to get to know people. I like them to get to know me. And the direction that I got from the particular direct sales leadership that I had was, you don't have time for that. Just, meet people, make a sale, meet people, make a sale. And it was like, this is not for me. So I do think that there's a lot of people in leadership that encourage people to go network to make a transaction. And that is, in my opinion, not networking. That's selling.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference.
Yeah. Right. Yep. I agree with that. Yeah. What I love about networking is rubbing elbows with those people. Sometimes they think bigger than I do. Maybe they encourage me. Maybe they have, when I tell people, oh, I edit podcasts, they're like, oh my God, that's so cool. I'm like, it is. That's cool. I'm cool. And so you get to have that kind of encouragement or, sometimes you get caught up in the mundaneness of your job and then somebody thinks it's cool and you're like, yeah, I do kind of have a cool job, or they challenge you like, have you ever done this with a client? Do your clients do this? And you're like, actually they don't, but maybe I could encourage a couple who do. Or they just normalize growth, like you feel. I was actually listening to a podcast this morning about growth and just like when you feel pressure, that's when you're growing. And, sometimes to hear somebody else going through it, you're like, oh yeah, this is like a normal struggle. This is a normal thing. When you are going through growth, it is normal to feel this way. And I think lots of times as entrepreneurs, we are solopreneurs. We are doing this on our own. So it's nice to have those conversations and just kind of have a little comfort and be reminded, yeah, okay, that's normal. So networking with those kind of people, it changes you over time. And there's so much value in that, more than just the sale, more than just the referral,
Right. Absolutely. And I think also, as you were talking about normalizing growth, it made me think about, when you're talking to another entrepreneur and they're focused on growth or they're launching something new or they're rebranding, it makes you go, oh, well, what should I be doing? Like, should I be should I be experiencing this growth? Should I be, considering this? Should I be doing that? And it makes you think more about how you can grow your business just by that conversation, and I think it really stretches you and
it kind of speaks to the 5 people that are around you the most are the ones that you are emulating or that you are, growing with. So I think it goes along with that. When you're in rooms with those types of people, you naturally gravitate towards those kind of actions.
Absolutely. And honestly, some of the best opportunities come from relationships that didn't seem maybe, I hate to say valuable, but valuable at first.
Yeah.
And then later in time, as life goes on, you're like, oh, this is where I'm getting the payback from that. That's why relationship first networking matters so much. Building that connection, building the community, that's really what networking should be about. And that's why, because you never know when that's going to come back around. And when you build that relationship where they know you and they like you and they trust you, they're going to think of you when they need you. And that's not always at that moment in that room. I wish it was. Like I said, I network it every day. Oh, right. I'm so glad I met you. I need to sell my house today. What? I mean, could you imagine?
I'm buying a house today.
I need a realtor. I've already found the house. I just need somebody to write the contract. I mean, that would be like, I'd be at the networking events everywhere. I know, right? I would do nothing but be at networking events. Oh, that would be awesome. I do think, like you mentioned, confidence. And I think one of the most overlooked networking benefits is confidence. The more conversations you have, the more comfortable you become talking about your business, sharing your ideas, owning your expertise. Like you were saying, oh, when they're like, oh, that's so cool. You're like,
Yeah.
I am? It's like, yeah. And when I hear you talk about podcast producing, there's so many things behind the scene. And I'm always just in awe going, wow, you have so much expertise and so much experience. And, when you realize that through conversations of networking, that growth in yourself is really hard to measure, but it matters.
Well, you have those conversations. And like you said, it gets you more comfortable talking about your business. We talk about the power statement, which is great, but it is a little robotic or a little structured. And the more you say that power statement, the more you can kind of start to riff off of it and you can start to sound confident about your business. And then, of course, having the conversations and people asking more questions and then just kind of having it come to life like, okay, I do know what I'm talking about. It is a specialized skill set and it is valued. But I mean, I think that networking helps you to refine your messaging without you even realizing it. Like you do it enough times, you eventually figure out like, oh, this is when I say this, people's face really lights up. Or when I say this, they really have a lot of follow-up questions. Or when I explain this, people are really confused.
Yeah, right.
Or, sometimes when I'm talking about this, I really see people leaning in again with those follow-up questions. So I think the more you talk about it, the more you start to realize what resonates with other people. It's just those little interactions that sharpen your communication skills over time.
You definitely figure out what works and what doesn't work.
Mhm.
Like when you see the confused look, you're like, oh, that wasn't clear. Okay, strike that
Nope,
one.
nope.
We'll go with a different one next time. Yeah. Another hidden ROI in networking is perspective. I mean, sometimes you walk into a room feeling behind or overwhelmed or isolated. I mean, especially as a solopreneur, you feel isolated a lot. And
Mhm.
then you
You
realize,
do?
right? Yes, you feel isolated a
Yeah.
lot. And then you
Uh-huh.
realize everyone else is struggling with similar things too. And
Right.
that kind of reassurance is powerful for an entrepreneur because business ownership, you know, I would say can feel lonely sometimes, but it feels lonely a lot of the time because when
Mhm.
you're an entrepreneur, you don't have your admin assistant or your receptionist or that other person in the office that you can be like, what do you think if we tweak this or if we tweak that? You don't have that person there. So typically it becomes your bestie or your spouse, right? That you're
Right.
trying to get
Poor
ideas
Donna.
from. And they're like, they're like your spouse is like, I don't know, that sounds like a great idea. You're like, but is it? I mean, is it really? So yeah, I think that the perspective you can gain through networking is powerful for entrepreneurs because yeah, this business ownership can feel lonely, but that community you create through networking really takes that part away.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the biggest benefits for our Bond and Beyond group is that most of us are solopreneurs. So it's nice to say, like, I made this graphic. What do you guys think? Or I'm thinking about this being my messaging. How does that sound?
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
group of cheerleaders for you. We don't have any cheerleaders. We got nobody in our corner. I mean, our spouses and our children are doing their things and, that's fine, but their sole goal or their sole purpose is not to cheer us on. Whereas someone else in a solopreneur setting, they want to cheer you on because they want you to cheer them on when they're doing the right thing. So
Right?
honestly, networking changes who you become before it changes your business. Being around those ambitious, growth minded people just kind of naturally expands your thinking. It raises your standards. It gives you new ideas. It helps you to think bigger. I mean, Jennifer in our group, Artistic Wave by Sassy J, she really has been blowing my mind lately. Just the different creative ideas she's coming up with for her business. It's got
Yeah.
me really thinking about my business and going, okay, are there other categories that I should be exploring? Are there other things that I should be doing? She's really kind of been an inspiration to me. And by no means is she trying. She's just bringing us ideas and saying, what do you guys think about this? I'm starting to do this. Or she posts some stuff on social media and I'm like, okay, that is so cool. So her drive is kind of giving me drive. Her fresh energy in her business is giving me some fresh energy. So
Yeah.
those things can completely change the trajectory of your business later on.
I mean, I agree that when you see somebody else in a close-knit group like our Bond and Beyond group doing something that you're like, well, that was a good idea. Oh,
Mhm.
maybe I should be doing something like that. How can I make that happen for me? I think that stuff is an ROI that gets no credit.
Oh, yeah, it's like an invisible ROI, like, you just don't even think of it until it all comes to fruition, and I think another big misconception about networking is thinking that opportunities are gonna happen instantly, like we were talking about, they're not transactional, and I know in the past we've talked about takers, and takers get frustrated because it's not this instant gratification,
Mhm.
but people who are in the smaller groups understand, like, you build a relationship, you never know who's gonna meet who and what opportunities can open up. I just think, and maybe, everybody listening can visualize this too, but if I think of me as a circle, and then I think of all these little lines shooting off of me, all of a sudden that network expands exponentially and it starts shooting off really fast into all these other little trees of who knows who knows who knows who knows who. And I know, you know, Johnny over here in the radio station because of a podcast interview that I had, and they happened to know somebody who had another show, and that person liked a radio station, and then their guest was interviewed on that radio station, and now I have a connection to that radio station. Like it's just unbelievable sometimes when I think about how my connections have like just, I mean, rapidly expanded into other people. It really does blow my mind.
Mhm.
Honestly, some of the best network outcomes happen 6 months, a year later, even sometimes longer. I had used this lady for making random t-shirts for me. I love me a graphic tee. I love me a tee with a saying on it. I can't get enough of them. And so I had just used this lady to make t-shirts for me, and we had used her for one of our businesses, thought nothing of it. And then one day, somebody on Facebook was looking for a podcast editor. And she was like, "Isn't that what you do, Tiffany?" And I was like, "Absolutely. That's exactly what I do." Had a discovery call. It has been one of my longest clients and one of my clients I have made the most income from. So you just never know
Yeah.
who knows who's honing into what you're doing on social media, who is very aware of your services, and who will connect you to who. But it's not like the day you meet them.
Right. No, and I've told this in previous episodes, but I met someone through networking when I was in a different business. I wasn't even in real estate. And then when I transitioned into real estate, it was about a year and a half later that she moved into my area.
Mhm.
And then, 6 months later, she wanted to sell that house and buy a new one. And she, of course, reached out to me and was like, absolutely. And that was 5 years from when I met her, and I was in a different
Mhm.
business. So it really goes to show that it's about the know, like, and trust factor. It's not even about your business because
Mhm.
that connection happened based solely on the know, like, and trust factor that was built while I was in a different business. So, yeah, it really goes to show it's really about the relationship more than it's about selling your business. Someone remembers your conversation later. Someone finally needs your service. Someone refers you after watching you consistently show up for months. That's why consistency matters so much more than intensity when you're networking.
Right, like, you don't have to show up at these networking events, like we've said before, and be the one that hands out all their business cards or, that it's in everybody's face, right? It
Right.
just matters consistently that you're showing up. One big networking push is not going to be the thing that builds the trust.
Right.
Showing up at one networking event, that's a drop in the bucket. They don't care. We all meet a million people every day. We're on social media, meeting people every day, virtually, I mean, it just unfortunately, it's these or fortunately, it's small repeated interactions that make that push for trust, that build that know, like, and trust factor that we've talked about. People often need multiple touch points before they
Mhm.
feel comfortable referring you or working with you. And that's why it's so comical that we're both thinking like to go to a networking event and get a new client or get a new homeowner is comical because it just
Right?
doesn't happen that way. It's built on relationship. And that is why networking is relational, not transactional.
Right. And I think people quit networking too early because they assume like nothing's happening. I'm not getting any clients or sales. This is a waste of my time. I hear that so much. This is a waste of my time. Nothing's happening. I'm not getting any clients. And it's like you've been here in this group or showing up to this event like twice, or like for a month, and it's like, you're right. Nothing is happening right now because we're still deciding if we like you and trust you and
Right.
we don't know you enough to know those things. So,
Well, because you put your reputation on the line when you refer someone.
Right. Yes.
I mean,
and
I don't want to just refer any Joe Blow. I want to make sure that you're going to make good on what you say you're going to do for people. It's going to be quality. Like, it's not just me referring you. It's me putting my reputation on the line.
Right. And I'm going to be honest, like as a real estate agent, like I like to give multiple home inspectors names or multiple loan officer names, unless it is somebody that I really know, like, and trust, then I will say, this is my go-to person. But if you're not that relationship with me, then I'm giving multiple names out because I don't want my clients mad at me because the contractor did a poor job or something happened.
Kind of like you choose.
Right.
You call them and you see who you know, like, and trust, or who you get that trust vibe from.
Right. But when you're in my inner circle, then it's like, this is my go-to person. And I don't hesitate to refer you because I know exactly what kind of quality you give. I know what kind of customer service you give. I know that you're going to stand behind this because it's a referral from me. And we have that kind of relationship. And that comes from years, really, because relationships are quietly building underneath the surface every time you're networking together. But it takes a while for you to be that go-to, when you're talking about, like you said, putting your reputation on the line for somebody, and that doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah. Well, you were saying you go to a meeting twice and people are like, oh, I'm not getting any referrals yet. And it makes me think of when you start a business. So let's say you're starting working sales and you work this sales job for a year and you're like, oh, I'm just not getting the referrals, right? So then you quit that job and you start a new job and you are trying to sell a service now. And you're just like, okay, I'm going to network and I'm going to tell everybody, and like, oh, I'm not getting anywhere. So you start another business. Had you stuck with the first business and just, gone through the growing pains of getting your name out there, and I know for me, I think it took about 2 years. I was doing all this networking and talking to everybody, and I thought, okay, I'm burning out, so I'm going to give it till my kids get back in school. And I'll tell you, right about that 2-year mark, referrals started coming to me like crazy. And now it's. I mean, I get nervous to do some marketing on social media because all my business does come to me through word of mouth, and I, flux right at my full capacity. So I get nervous to say too much on social media. I would rather stick with my word of mouth. First of all, it's, great clients that are coming to me. And again, I can trust these referrals because I trust the person sending me the referral. So I will talk to the person, that is inquiring about podcast management. I think it's just important to keep in mind, like, you got to keep grinding through some of that stuff. It's not going to happen overnight.
Right.
These are relationships built over time. You don't meet somebody and marry them. You date them for a couple of years before you marry.
Right.
In most scenarios. So just think about that. How do we build other relationships? It's the same thing in the business world, you guys.
Yeah, I get a lot of questions from realtors that ask me about networking. And they're like, I know you're big into networking. Like, do you really feel like you get any clients from it? And I'm always just like blown away by that question because 99.9% of my clients all come through networking. My connections, people referring somewhere, somehow. It might be, 3 or 4 degrees of separation. But that is where every single one of my clients come. And so I'm always like, yes, I get a lot of good referrals. And they're like, really? When did you think that started happening? And I say all the time, well, in real estate, I would say you have to be part of a regular meeting group for at least a year before you're going to start expecting to see measurable results. And they're like, blown away by that. Really? A year? It's like, Yes. How many houses do you think people are just buying and selling randomly? Like, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, I'm not selling lipstick where you can just buy it any other day. I'm talking about a house, so you got to be reasonable in your expectations. And that comes from building those relationships.
Sometimes we say that networking is planting seeds. And if you think about that, you plant these seeds, you don't plant a seed today and tomorrow get an ear of corn, right?
Right? Yeah.
It
Yeah.
takes time before this harvest. Okay. So a lot of your most valuable opportunities are going to come from people who are quietly watching you, who have showed up over time. Yesterday, we were at the pool and friends of ours introduced us to another couple. And I said, "You are never going to believe this." I said, "But this is kind of creepy." And they were like, "Okay." And I said, "I know exactly who you guys are." They said, "You do?" I said, "I have watched you guys for years here at the pool. Like, I know who your daughter is and I know who you are. And I know your wife always has the cutest swimming suits on." And I said, "I know it's kind of creepy, but you guys have always been a family that has intrigued me. And you just, you're always showing up together and you just seem like a tight knit family. And for whatever reason," I said, "I'll never forget your daughter showing up in her yellow polka dot bikini swimsuit." And I was singing the song in my head. I said, "You guys have just stuck in my head. So every time I'm at the pool and I see you guys show up, I'm like, oh, there they are, but I've been watching them for years and I finally just met them." It's
Yeah.
kind of the same thing, like you plant the seed and, 6 to 9 months later, you get the harvest. And it's the same thing in our relationships. Again, you don't just marry the person you went on the first date with,
Right.
it takes
Exactly.
time to build these relationships, people.
Yeah. And I think one of the most underrated networking benefits is also that emotional support you get from those
Uh-huh.
relationships. As I mentioned before, entrepreneurship can feel really lonely sometimes, especially when the people around you don't fully understand what running a business feels like.
Right, right. And sometimes that ROI is encouragement just during a hard season. Sometimes it's advice that saves you months of frustration. I know that that is one of the things we say a lot of times to people who join our group is like, "Hey, stick with us. We got you. We will support you." Sometimes if people are just starting their business and we're like, "Whatever you need, we'll help you with Instagram. We'll tell you what the rules are, or we'll help you with, your website or whatever it is." I mean, sometimes it's you get introduced to a new tool or a mentor or a connection that just changes everything. You just don't know what's going to come from some simple networking, some simple investing in other people.
Right. And honestly, some networking relationships become genuine friendships. I mean, I would say in
Mhm.
our Bond and Beyond group, I mean, a lot of those people are genuine friends at this point. People you celebrate wins
Yes.
with, people who check in on you when life is throwing you a bunch of curveballs, right? People who support you personally and
Mhm.
professionally.
Yeah, it's really invaluable, our group of girls. I just know that I could come to you guys with anything, and I don't really feel judgment. I feel sympathy, like, "Okay, girl's going through it. Like,
Right.
let's support her and get her some
Right.
answers and help her figure this out." Or I love that in our meetings, we do the success tip, and the last time we had a success tip, it was really great. One of our members came up with this worksheet that you can use with AI to get to the result that you're looking for a little bit faster. She took like some of the guesswork out of, we know what we're doing, but she like put it in an outline and then it's like, right, that is what I'm doing. But those
Right.
are like some shortcuts. And so just yes, support professionally and personally, and it's things that don't show up on a spreadsheet necessarily, but they absolutely impact your life and your business, and I think that's why networking becomes so much more meaningful when you stop viewing it as transactions and start
Mhm.
viewing them as relationships. You're not going there to sell something, you're going there to expose your business to their network. Hopefully, they're impressed enough with you, they know, like, and trust you enough to
Mhm.
share you with their network.
I mean, the hidden ROI of networking, I think, is often much, much, much bigger than the visible ROI of networking. And I will say, I was interviewing a man to be a potential co leader of one of our groups. And
Mm,
in
I
the
know this
meeting, we
story,
went to go get
yes.
coffee, right? And in the meeting,
Mhm.
after I kind of explained the role, his first question was, "What's the ROI on your group?" like, when will I see a return on my investment? And I instantly went in my head, this is not the right person. Because
Yes.
if that's how you're viewing, how quickly can I get something out of this? You are not the right person to certainly lead a group.
Well, and let's also not be disillusioned by other groups that you do track all that stuff.
Right, right,
And it is really busy work. It's not legitimate.
right.
Okay, maybe they can go to their website and say, "Oh, it looks like you did $53,000 worth of referrals."
Right, right,
I
right,
don't think that is factual. I
right,
think that it looks good in the system, but I don't think it's real.
right. Well, and we've talked about this, but when you're tracking referrals and pretty much there's an expectation of passing 2 referrals a week and it's being tracked, what do you think the quality of those referrals really are?
Oh,
Or
for real.
is it made up because I have to have something and I'm being tracked, And so to me, I would rather have a genuine, valid referral instead of one that is just made up because it's being tracked and I can talk to this person and later and tell them to entertain a phone call or whatever,
Right.
And I'm not saying they're all like that, but I, know that a lot of that happens, right? So, I mean, I think that when you're looking at networking, obviously we're all in networking to grow our business. Of course we
Of
are.
course. Yeah.
Of course. But when you're looking at it like, what is the proposed ROI? When will I see transactions in my business? Then I'm just not thinking you're going into this with the right mindset. Like,
It's just not that black and white. I mean, we're
mm-mm.
looking for quality over quantity. If networking hasn't paid off the way you expected, don't assume it isn't working. Some of the most valuable networking outcomes take time, consistency, and trust
Yeah.
before they fully reveal themselves.
And sometimes the biggest opportunity isn't the person who hires you immediately or purchases from you immediately. It's the person who quietly remembers you months and months later, or the conversation that changes your confidence, or the relationship that opened doors later on.
You're saying the conversation that changes your confidence. I will never forget getting a referral from one of my current podcast clients. And she's like, quote, a big deal. And the fact that she felt comfortable referring my business to her network, that was a confidence boost I will never forget. That I was
Mhm.
like, holy crap, I've proven myself to this person who she put her reputation on the line, and she's
Yeah.
got a big sphere of influence, and she put her reputation on the line for me. She
Yeah.
thought that much of me. And I just that's a gift, that's a confidence boost that you can't get on paper, you can't get from showing up one time, so keep showing up, keep building the relationships, keep planting those seeds because you never know which connection is creating momentum behind the scenes.
Yes. So it's time for this week's networking mode on tip. Instead of asking yourself, what did I get from this event?
No, 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 no.
Instead, ask, what relationships did I strengthen? What did I learn? Who did I encourage? Or who now knows my name? That's networking ROI 2. Networking mode on.
If this episode made you think differently about networking, send us a quick text using the link in the show notes to tell us about a connection that unexpectedly impacted your life or business. We read every message and love hearing your stories. Let's keep building those powerful links together.
You've been hanging out in the Link Up Lounge, your lounge for turning one link into endless opportunities.
Now it's your turn. Go make a powerful link today.
Networking mode on.